Hey folks, this is Rhykker with another Diablo 3 Necromancer video. While we wait for the Necromancer to be re-added to the beta, some more data mining has occurred. We now have the preliminary set bonuses, as well as a few more data mine cosmetic items. But first, let's go over the main thing we've all been waiting for, which is the set items, as well as a few additional legendaries. The reason I've personally been waiting for the sets before making any real judgment on the power level of the Necro is because that is the way, unfortunately, that Diablo 3 is balanced right now. Sets define game balance. Itemization, rather, defines game balance. So do note that these are data mined. These are not official. Some changes may still be made, and there might have been some misinterpretation in the data mining as well, but this is what we're looking at for now. So the first Necromancer set appears to be the Skeletal Army, the Undead Army Necromancer. For the 2-piece bonus, anytime your minions deal damage, they have a chance to reduce the cooldown on Army of the Dead by 1 second. Army of the Dead is a really cool power on a 2-minute cooldown. When the Necromancer returns to beta, we'll be able to continue our series going over all the skills. But basically, you might have seen the BlizzCon 2016 demo of Army of the Dead. It summons a shit ton of zombies immediately onto a location. They don't last, it's not part of your army, but it's a really cool, big, huge, instant damage effect. And before the sets were announced, I was actually tooling around with a cooldown build to see just how often I could cast Army of the Dead. And it wasn't promising, so I really was hoping there would be some power or set bonus that would allow us to reduce the cooldown on that. Now the 4-piece bonus, each time one of your minions deals damage, you gain 1% damage reduction for 5 seconds, max 50 stacks. So in practicality, you're often going to have 50% damage reduction throughout the majority of your rift. But this also further encourages you to have that big ass army. We have a build video, in fact, which was just showcasing the size of the army that you can achieve, and it's ultimately over 20. I think it's about 23 minions that you can have up effectively 100% of the time. So hitting that 50 stack will be pretty easy. Then for the 6-piece bonus, each active skeletal mage increases the damage of your minions and Army of the Dead by 200%. You can have a maximum of 5 mages out at any given time, which translates into 1000% more damage. On an effect like Army of the Dead, which already deals a ton of damage, that's pretty powerful, so it's going to be about how often we're actually able to cast Army of the Dead. The fact that as your minions have a chance to reduce the cooldown, we don't know what that chance is. We don't know what the proc rate is, so we'll have to see that in practice. Now, honestly, my initial impression of this set was that I was underwhelmed. What I like most about it is the reducing the cooldown on Army of the Dead. However, I was hoping it would also reduce the cooldown on our other 2-minute skills, Simulacrum and Land of the Dead. Basically, this set is forcing the majority of your skills. You need to take Skeleton Mage, and you can't take the cool Singularity rune. I was really hoping to make a build around that, maybe a Legacy of Nightmares, we'll have to see, but again, we went over that in our secondary skills video. But again, you're forced to pick Skeleton Mage, you're forced to pick Army of the Dead. In order to maintain that 4-piece bonus, those 50 stacks on your damage reduction, you're going to be forced to take Command Undead, I believe it is, the one where you can have 7 melee skeletons. You're going to be forced to take Revive to have another 10 minions, and that just leaves us with 2 skills. One of which will most likely need to be the Golem, that Decay Golem, or they might be changing it. We saw some data mine skill changes, but the Golem that bursts into 8 corpses, so that you can instantly revive 8 minions. So that's already 5 predetermined skills out of 6 total skills. I mean, to be fair, this is a pet build, and in the pet build, you would expect to have as many pets as possible. So, is it really forcing that? I mean, I may have a little bit of tunnel vision here, and yeah, maybe you could give up some of those skills. Maybe you'll just want to use Revive. Maybe you can give up Command Undead. And yes, Army of the Dead is a super cool skill, and I would love to be able to spam it, but options are really great. And I think the sets that allow you the most versatility in what skills and runes you could equip are the most interesting sets in the game. And that takes us to our next set. This is the Blood-based set. This might become Trang'ouls set. 2-piece bonus, Blood Rush gains the effect of every rune. We haven't showcased this skill in a video yet, but Blood Rush is the Necromancer's teleport power. It operates very much like Dashing Strike for the Monk. So I'm already loving this 2-piece bonus. For the 4-piece bonus, this is an interesting and unique bonus. While at full life, your healing from skills is added to your max life up to double your health. So this is a really interesting and unique take on the sort of standard 50% damage reduction that a lot of the other sets give. It amounts to the same kind of bonus, but delivered and flavored in a way that is very much unique to the Blood Necromancer, and I think that's cool. That means recovery is going to be very important for the Blood build. Then for the 6-piece bonus, the wording is a bit ambiguous here, but it seems that you can gain a buff stack whenever you use a skill that spends at least 10% of your health, and then you consume one of these stacks when you use a life-spending attack in order to make that attack remove an additional 10% life in order to deal 200% more damage. That generally means double the life cost for triple the damage. And that's a good trade-off. Another way to use a stack is to use a heal skill to heal for 4 times the usual amount. So conceptually, I like this set, but I'm not sure that these damage buffs are quite enough. I do love that this applies to all blood skills, so I do feel this is a good set. But the numbers feel undertuned to me unless you can stack stacks. Like they multiply their bonuses or something more than just triple damage. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this. Again, maybe once it goes live to server, it'll be explained better. But again, most of the sets in this game will buff damage by about 2,000%. So we're off by just about an order of magnitude. Pop, pop! So what I like about this set is that, one, it is cohesive. It has a theme, blood. That theme is clear without it needing to say, you buff 1, 2, and 3 skills. Yes, it is effectively buffing a certain number of skills. It's whichever skills cost blood, but it feels a lot less restrictive, allowing for more creativity and more options than a lot of the other sets in this game. Then we have our bone set. This is probably my favorite one. For the 2-piece, bone armor damage is increased by 1,000%. 4-piece, bone armor stacks are now refreshed. Additionally, bone armor grants 2% damage reduction, an additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit. And then the 6-piece bonus, bone armor also activates a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for such and such damage and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 1,500%. And there it is, folks. There's your melee Necromancer build. I know a lot of you don't really like the idea of a melee Necromancer, but I love this set. I love what this set does. I love the options that this set allows. It forces one skill, bone armor. That's it. It's already a good skill. As a Necro, you'd likely already be having that skill. And apart from that, it's basically up to you. Odds are you're going to want to be using Death Nova, for instance, but the skills are basically your choice. Obviously, because it is a melee-themed build, yes, there will be certain skills you're gonna lean towards. But again, what's great about this is that it is themed. It's gonna be melee-themed, and then your options are your own. And it's just really cool. So it kind of hits the trifecta of being a great set. One, it's cool. That swirling tornado is gonna be awesome. 2, it has a theme, a cohesive theme that makes sense. Melee, bone. And 3, it offers options. It doesn't shoehorn you into, the vast majority of the skills you're going to use. Your spender, in particular, will be up to you. Your main damage source, up to you. And then lastly, we have what is the ranged set, which may as well just be called the Bone Spear set. The 2-piece bonus, each corpse you consume fires a corpse lance fragment at a nearby enemy, dealing damage. 4-piece, each enemy you hit with Bone Spear reduces your damage taken by 2% up to a maximum of 50%, lasts 15 seconds. And the 6-piece, each corpse you consume grants you an empowered Bone Spear charge that increases the damage of your next Bone Spear by 1,000%. So here we're kind of taking a step back. Bone Spear is what you're going to use here. And okay, maybe this is a callback to Diablo 2. The Diablo 2, Bone Spear Necro was very cool. And at least you can choose between the runes of Bone Spear. I suspect Teeth is going to be a favorite here, particularly for that 4-piece bonus. Teeth is basically multi-shot. We show that off in the video where we go over our spenders, our secondary skills. But basically, Bone Spear by itself is a very slender shaft. I don't want to say the word shaft, but nothing else is coming to mind right now. It's difficult to hit a lot of enemies with the base Bone Spear. Teeth, however, is going to hit a large number of things. That's going to very easily keep up that 50% damage reduction, except when you're against the Rift Guardian. The exception here might be if you're allowed to hit the same enemy multiple times. It says each enemy hit. Maybe you can stack it by hitting the same enemy multiple times. That would be the saving grace against Rift Guardians. But nonetheless, it seems there's going to be maybe 2 viable Bone Spear runes in order to maintain the 4-piece. So we're already taking, you know, you have to use this one spender, and now you have to ignore more than half the runes on that spender. And then the 6-piece, you know, kind of boring. It just makes your Bone Spear deal more damage. At least the 2-piece is interesting. I wish it would be more built around that. I wish there'd be some reason to use Bone Spirit. Maybe if they made the 4- and 6-piece bonuses applied to both Bone Spear and Bone Spirit, that would help things a little bit. Also, this build is going to kind of force your other skills to be skills that generate spirits, so the Golem that breaks down into 8 corpses, and other things to generate corpses in order to buff your damage. So we're not going to see a whole lot of variety here, probably more than the pet Necromancer, but nonetheless, distinctly not as cool or varied as the Blood and Bone sets. So as you can tell, I'm most excited about the Bone set. I can't wait to try that. I can't wait to see what combinations are possible with that. My second favorite is the Blood set. I think maybe we'll need to tool the numbers, but I'm not really concerned about numbers tooling. It's still early beta. I'm more concerned about concepts. I'm less excited for the Summon and the Bone Spear sets because they don't seem to offer as much in the way of variety. Now to go over the few other items that were data mined, we have this one item that will buff Bone Spikes, Bone Spear, and Bone Spirit, deal 150% increased damage against enemies that are stunned, frozen, charmed, feared, or blinded. So this is a flat buff to damage against crowd-controlled enemies, so it's something that you can probably keep up 100% of the time. And it seems this basically is going to apply to the Bone Spear set. This is going to be a mandatory item for the Bone Spear set, and I don't see it being very useful to the other sets. Next item, after consuming 15 corpses, you unleash a free Death Nova. This is likely going to be for the Melee Necromancer, the Bone set, but it doesn't seem to be a particularly strong item, since you need to consume 15 corpses just for one unruined Death Nova. Maybe if it were every 5 corpses, that'd be more interesting, that'd be more significant. But again, we'll have to see in practice. Next we have, you gain 50% increased move speed for 2 seconds after using Blood Rush. While at first this seems like it's best suited for the Blood set, most builds will likely use Blood Rush. It's the Necromancer's mobility skill. And I imagine this item would be useful for any speed build for the Necromancer. That said, I'm not sure it will be powerful enough to warrant giving up a spot for 50% move speed for 2 seconds after Blood Rush. The Warzekian Arm Guards, shitty item, right? Give you 50% increased move speed for 4 seconds every time you destroy a wreckable object, which, when you're speed rifting, is going to be far more often than how often you're using Blood Rush. So if we're doing this for only 2 seconds, I want to see a 100% buff to move speed. Then it's at least on par, maybe, even still slightly inferior to the Warzekian Arm Guards. Unless you're able to keep chaining Blood Rush, I guess with an Obsidian Ring of the Zodiacs and big ol' cooldown reduction. We'll have to see in practice, but overall, this seems slightly undertuned. And then lastly, your damage reduction is increased by 1% for every 2% life you are missing. Now, this at first seems intended for the Blood set, but with the Blood set, you'll most likely often be at over 100% health, meaning these won't give you any damage reduction at all. And even if it is, by the time you're at 50% health, you only have 25% damage reduction. This is not likely worth giving up a slot for. At 25% health, you're up to 38% damage reduction. Compare this to other classes, where you have like 35% damage reduction at all times, and it's just not enough. That said, again, when it comes to things that are just numbers, I'm not concerned. It's more concept, so numbers can always be tuned. And before we start tuning numbers, we actually got to start testing things out. So that's what was data mined by Diablo fans. There's a little bit more stuff, some set dungeon stuff, but I don't think it's too necessary to go over. You can visit DiabloFans.com to get all the details. There's also some skill changes. Nothing too huge, some small things here and there, which we'll go over when we go over the skills more. But we'll finish this video by going over some further data mined visual assets by Reddit user Recupero. So we see actually a second cosmetic pennant, which is looking quite grim, pretty cool. These are the textures all laid out. We have another set of wings, blood wings, which are very cool. We got 2 new phylactery icons. We've got an update to the assets for the Battle.net store. There you can see that additional pennant. Very cool, very grisly. We can see that the paper doll for the Necro has been put in place. No more using the Crusaders as a placeholder. And we have new inventory icons for the new wings, as well as new pets. There seems to be an additional new pet there, or possibly 2. One looks like it might be a dark Diablo, and the other is, what is that, a evil probe from StarCraft? Regardless, cool stuff, and hopefully at the latest next Tuesday, the Necro will be back on the beta. Fingers crossed it happens even earlier. But that wraps up this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Which set do you find the coolest? For me, Bone set. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Diablo content.